You can leave that here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our commission meeting for December 16th, 2025. I call our meeting to order and state for the record, we do have a full quorum of commissioners present. Just a reminder to silence your cell phone, and if you're going to speak today, we are required to have your name for public record. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Anyone from the public that would like to comment on any item on our consent agenda, our bills to be paid, personnel actions, etc.? Commissioners, anybody want to comment or pull any item from the consent agenda?
I would like to make a comment about the consent agenda, just from the treasurer's relationship with the state, if you don't mind.
Please.
We had almost $4.3 million worth of expenses in this last week's consent agenda for bills that we were responsible for and departments that we were responsible for. Ironically, again, 2.6 million of that 4.3 million was reimbursements back to the state. So we're becoming more and more of a responsibility that the state has delegated to us, which is kind of an unfunded mandate in some cases. So I think when we get to the point of talking about property tax relief and how we're going to support the building issues, the operational issues, and all those kinds of things, when we are reimbursing back to the state 2.6 million of the 4.3, they might want to keep that in mind on how they, frankly, will have to operate the state without some county help.
Well said. I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Weinberg,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Heisey,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on then to our regular business. Our first item is the Shape Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan Update from the city. Fletcher.
Good morning. My name is Fletcher Laycock. I'm a senior planner with the City of Sioux Falls Planning and Development Services. Am I getting to the right? Oh, okay, sorry. What I'm here today to talk about is the Shape Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan Update. The city's been working on it for the last 2 years. What we're planning on is how do we shape the growth of the city as we expand into Lincoln County and Minnehaha County over the next 25 years, where we expect to see a population growth of 150,000 to 170,000 people, and then having to provide 78,000 housing units to house them, and identifying where commercial and industrial and places that they'll work. So that's where the planning department with the city of Sioux Falls works with the planning and development, or planning with the Minnehaha County and Lincoln County to plan our growth. Today I want to kind of go over our public input process, some of the key trends and recommendations that we pulled out of the plan or from our public engagement, and then go into our draft chapters, particularly chapter 5 and 6, which is growth management and land use. On the right, this is our public input summary report cover page. And when we kicked off the public engagement process, we had a coloring contest so kids could submit their coloring sheet, and they won a prize from the mayor. And that's really, we're planning for 25 years in the future. We're planning for our kids, so we wanted to focus on that perspective. We are wrapping up our third phase of the plan, which is we have a final draft. Phase 2 public engagement was a really intense time that we got a lot of good involvement from residents of our community. We did that through a variety of different methods, online website, workshops and listening sessions. And one of the public engagement processes that we really enjoyed were pop-up events, which were hosted by city staff, and we went to the farmers market and other events in town and just talked to people, went to where people are. So we got a lot of engagement at those different events. We also had stakeholder interviews and focus group meetings, and quite a number of those. And just to give you an idea of where we're involving the community, we had public utilities involved, our school districts, about 8 of them, I believe, and then water districts, and then we also had a focus group with local government and planning offices. We also had an advisory committee made up of members of our community, and we just culminated with a December 8th advisory committee meeting with our initial draft. And I just wanted to call out the members of the committee, including Bonnie Duffy, the chairperson of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, who has been to all of our meetings and been a great advocate for the county and our plan. So some of the key takeaways, we wanted to know from residents what were the important things, what were the trends that they saw that they thought would affect them in the future. And through our public engagement, which included a survey and all these different events, we pulled out some key themes, which were housing and trends, or housing and neighborhoods, transportation and mobility, conservation and resiliency. And those were the big 3. We also pulled out a few more, but those were the ones that really came to the top. And I think it's, what our consultant told us is that it's a really good thing if people are talking about transportation, because that means that there aren't really a lot of issues that are affecting them, because everyone can complain about how bad traffic is. So if that's what they're complaining about, that's what we always complain about. So it's a good thing. So highlights of the draft chapters, we've tried to change up how we've done it in the past. Chapter 5 and 6 is what I want to get into a little bit, but then in the future, when we come back for approval of the plan, we'll get more into our chapter 9, or 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is how we're going to implement the plan in the future. So growth management strategy is how do we grow, where do we grow, and how do we work with our partners in order for that growth to work well. And what we do every year is we update what are called our tier maps. And this shows where city utilities and infrastructure is going to be available from 1 to 5 years, 6 to 15 years, and 15 years and beyond. So it gives everyone the fair knowledge of where growth is going to happen. And of course, that growth is happening in Lincoln County and in Minnehaha County. And we update these maps every year as our CIP budgets are approved, just so we know just so people know where that development can happen. And then when we look at land use, when we work with the Lincoln County or the Minnehaha County Planning Commission and our joint jurisdiction, a lot of the things that we look at are the future land use, and it's pretty much the same as what we've had in the past. The big changes that we've made is that we have to accommodate for that increase in 78,000 housing units out to 2050. So you'll see the boundary is expanded. And then there are these orange bands on arterial streets, which is identifying areas where we would prefer to have moderate density residential, which would be higher density along your major roadways. It's not requiring it, but it is identifying that that's where we'd prefer to see the type of land use that we'd prefer to see along those corridors. And then at the intersection of corridors, we have the commercial to support those building neighborhoods. And then the one big new red circle is a regional employment center on the far west side on 12th, and I believe that's 466th. But that's the intersection of 2 type 1 arterials, and it gives us the commercial land that we would need for a large commercial center such as downtown or the mall area or Dolly Farm. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that that's where we have land that we could probably accommodate that type of development if it was needed. So thank you for your time today. Where you will see us in the future, well, where we have been recently is at the, Back in February, we had an informational meeting at the Minnehaha County Joint Jurisdiction meeting where we went over the public engagement. On November 24th, we also gave this presentation to the Joint Jurisdiction Planning Commission. And then where we'll come back to the Joint Jurisdiction Planning Commission is on March 23rd, 2026 for approval. And then we're planning on a joint City Council and Commission meeting on April 28th, 2026 to review the final document and then for approval. So with that, are there any questions?
All right. Thank you, Fletcher. We take public comment before we go to commission questions. Any public comment on this agenda item? All right, commission, questions, comments? All right, so more to
Mr.
come,
Chair.
I guess.
Mr. Chair, I can just
Please.
throw on one thing. Fletcher, thanks for coordinating with the county planning. Bonnie's a great advocate, like you mentioned. Anything you would throw out when we're talking about joint jurisdiction, we just, as a county, just did a new comprehensive plan. How do some of these things interlace together? Any other just maybe the 2-minute tutorial on joint jurisdiction, just how can we work together better and what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, so where we can grow as the city is out into the growth areas. And so we need to coordinate, make sure that we're working with the county to make sure that premature development isn't happening, which will add a burden onto county services. So we want to make sure that city services are available and that property can be annexed into the city as we grow into the county. And it's great working with the Planning Commission because we get to coordinate and make sure our plans actually are speaking to each other and just making sure that development's happening that is good for both elected or city and county, so.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Just out of curiosity, is there anything that we as commissioners should take note of with the city's plan, things that we should be looking towards, for the next 20, 30 years that may affect us?
I think it's just the fact that we're going to grow by basically the population of two times the population of Rapid City, and so as much as we've seen a lot of growth, we're going to continue to see that growth, and it'll be, into Lincoln County, but also into Minnehaha County. And we just need to make sure that we're not allowing development that, again, we create these donut holes where it's land that isn't annexed into the city and it becomes a burden on the county to provide services. So just making sure we stay ahead of that in the future.
Yeah. What do you project the population of the city of Sioux Falls to be by 2050 at current rates?
It's between 350 and 370,000.
Are there any major differences or changes in this plan that you put together compared to the last plan?
Yes, the implementation of the plan, where in the past we were looking at corridors and planning for different corridors such as Minnesota Avenue. In the future, we've broken up the city and into the counties into what are called sub-areas. And so we're going to start planning for those sub-areas, which the comprehensive plan is that big vision, and now we want to make sure that we can fit that vision into different areas of the city that have different issues that they need addressed. We're not all the same, so why try to plan for the southeast side the same way as the northwest side? There are different concerns and issues that they have.
Thank you.
All right. You said the next update will be April.
We'll be going back to the Joint Jurisdiction Planning Commission on March 23rd, and then our plan is to have one of those large Lincoln County, Minnehaha County City Council, Sioux Falls City Council meetings on potentially April 28th.
Something to look forward to. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Moving on, consider a motion to approve extending 6 rural ambulance licenses. Jason Gearman.
Jason Gearman, Minnehaha County Emergency Manager. Here to consider the motion to approve extending the licenses for 6 ambulances: Del Rapids, Garrettson, Humboldt, Jasper, MedStar, and Patient Care out of Sioux Falls. The reason I'm here today is the licenses were due at the end of the year, and it kind of snuck up on us. So in the ordinance, it says that they can be extended up to 2 years. So as to not put any more burden on the ambulances towards the end of the year, we're requesting that you can pass a motion to extend the licenses for up to 2 years. So 1 year or 2 years, whatever you guys decide.
Okay. Any significant changes to the licenses?
No, and Dr. Luther couldn't make it, but, some of the things that he's implemented and with that image trend, the oversight is there a little more directly. Instead of paper, it's done electronically, so he oversees the county's portion of it, but you also have to look at these ambulances are also governed by their own medical director. So a lot of the licenses, I think, in the past, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was more that you're comfortable funding them. A lot of it had to do with personnel, equipment, things like that. We do the ambulance license every 2 years, I believe. Personnel change, so I think we need to make some adjustments to the license itself. I know the deputy auditor there, she made some adjustments, took out social security numbers that we shouldn't be putting in there. And I think this next year we'll look at maybe making some changes to the licensing process.
Okay, before we go to additional questions, I'll take public comment. Public comment on this agenda item? Commission, questions? Commissioner Benega.
My assumption is that, I know that Dr. Luther's not here, but I'm guessing he has an opportunity to give you feedback about whether these should be continued with all the ambulance services that we currently have, and that there aren't really any concerns that he has.
We met with him and the majority of the ambulance services before we made this decision. And of course, they're in agreement with it because it takes a lot of time for them to put this information together. But Dr. Luther's fine with it.
Well, we've been fortunate to have wonderful service for each of those groups for many, many years, and there's a lot of volunteer needs yet still aren't quite filled. So the ones that were fully paid staff, that's a little different issue, but we're certainly happy with what we have for relationships.
I'll make the motion to extend the licenses as listed for 2 years.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. My question, Jason, so we're approving the license and the contract payments basically for the next 2 years under the current system? Is that what you said?
Know how that's interconnected, but I know that part of the process was, we do this, but maybe Tom could.
Yeah, I would just say they're two separate, distinct processes. This is just the license.
So it's just license and it's not the
There's not
agreement
a
paid.
cost tied to the license.
This is something we've done in the past, and we were redistricting the ambulances too, and it didn't affect the funding process at all.
Okay, good enough. All right, we have a motion, a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries.
Thanks.
Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign amendment number 1 to contract for housing of Lincoln County prisoners. Warden Mattson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Mattson, Warden of the Minnehaha County Jail. As you stated, I'm seeking commission approval and the commission chair to sign the amendment to our housing contract with Lincoln County. The only change in this amendment is the housing per day fee is increasing from $112 to $131.90. And that adjustment is based off of the federal formula that we use for our U.S. Marshal contracts.
Okay, public comment on this agenda item. Commission, questions? I have some, if anybody else doesn't. Commissioner Heisey?
I was just going to ask Mr. Chair, how many prisoners do we hold typically for Lincoln County? And is that going to change down the road?
I don't foresee it changing at this point. We do house, we guarantee them 45 beds. They're generally a little above that, and we're able to accommodate that.
Okay. And I imagine that Lincoln County has already approved this rate change?
Correct.
Thank you.
Warden, does the state reimburse us? Do you know the rate at which they reimburse us?
$95 a day for DOC inmates.
$95 a day. So our actual cost truly is the $130, $190.
Correct.
So how do we make up that $36.90 a day difference that the state doesn't pay us? Is that paid by the taxpayers of Minnehaha County, or do we shift that to the other counties that participate?
Yeah, I can appreciate that question. I can say that we do not shift any costs to any of our other partners. The county basically is just out that money.
So the taxpayers' property taxes are going to pay for what the state isn't paying.
It's a fair assumption.
Thank you. All right,
Could I
Need
ask
a
a
mo-
question, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Weinberg.
You said we have 45 beds on average that we hold for Lincoln, but they might be over that. Just, are those inmates that come from the Lincoln County Sheriff Department, or would those be from,
Any person who is detained and arrested and lodged in the jail that their charge occurred in Lincoln County. So it could be T, it could be Canton, it could be the sheriff's office.
and is Southern Sioux Falls included in that, or is that?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then the DOC inmates, how do they end up with us? How do they?
A lot of times it's parolees. We charge them the $95 a day because they're a DOC inmate. And on the rare occasion where we have somebody who's sentenced to the penitentiary, more often it's the women's prison where the women's prison's full and we have to hold them a little bit longer until there's a bed space available for them at the women's prison. We're charging the state for those days while they're waiting to go to the prison.
Okay. Do you have a number of how many beds we have for them?
We don't guarantee them beds, and I would have to do some research on
Okay,
an average how many beds there are. And I can follow up with you in an email if you'd like.
that'd be great. That's good.
Include
info.
us all, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign the Old Courthouse Museum annual lease agreement between Minnehaha County and the Sioux Valley Genealogical Society. It's still the Old Courthouse Museum.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Hoskins, Director of the Siouxland Heritage Museums. This is an annual lease that we've been doing for a number of years with the Sioux Valley Genealogical Society and Minnehaha County for space that they use in the Old Courthouse Museum. Currently, there is no rent charged to the Sioux Valley Genealogical Society. So to pass this, it requires a unanimous vote of the commission.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commission, questions, action?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. You know, I've seen the operation. It's very, very small. They take up a postage stamp of space and they provide a valuable service to the people of Minnehaha County.
They're an organization that we work closely with.
Yep. So, all right, motion and a second. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign the Old Courthouse Museum annual lease agreement between Minnehaha County and the Minnehaha County Historical Society.
Once again, Commissioners, this is an annual lease between the Minnehaha County Historical Society and the Minnehaha County for space they occupy at the Old Courthouse Museum. They occupy even less space than the Sioux Valley Genealogical Society. Mostly this is meeting space. There is no rent charged at this time. It will require a unanimous vote of the commission to approve it.
Public comment? Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Bill. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign the 2026 subrecipient agreement between Minnehaha County and the Southeastern Council of Governments. Good morning, Jacob.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars, County Highway Department. The Southeast Council of Governments helps reimburse Minnehaha County for planning services that we offer to the county. And this agreement spells out kind of what dollar amount we're expected to receive back from CCOG for 2026 per the UPWP. The grant amount is $71,706.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Got a truck back. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign a purchase agreement with Service Trucks International for a highway sign truck service body and installation in the amount of $229,021.21.
Commission, Jacob Mars again. In October, we bid a truck body for our sign truck. That bid came in at $266,924. Our budget for the build portion of this truck was approximately $195,000. State law allows us to go out and then negotiate, because we didn't receive any firm bids, negotiate with a vendor. And the price we came up with was $229,021.21. The truck for this build, we should be receiving within the next couple of weeks, and we expect this build to be complete early spring.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, call the roll.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to approve a resolution authorizing submission of big preservation and replacement funds and cost participant 40% for one bridge. Jacob.
The South Dakota Big Grant is something we apply for every year. We have a couple of applications we're looking to apply for this year. This particular bridge is straight east of Baltic, South Dakota. And when we go and replace our bridge improvement program grant, BIP grant with the feds, this bridge is part of that detour. So we are trying to get this one replaced in advance, so we don't end up with a posted structure on our detour route. This structure isn't currently posted, but it's something that our bridge inspector, Chris Brozick, told us we need to have in our 5-year plan and make sure we get it replaced before it gets posted. So looking for approval to, well, this would be a resolution to submit an application at a 60-40 grant.
Public comment. Why 40 on this one? Why- Don't we usually do 20?
Yeah, so we go up in points so that we can add points to our score. Based on historical numbers, we think the lowest scoring number to apply is going to be roughly 51, 52. So going 60-40 gets us up to this big score of almost 54.
Okay.
So it's a it's a guessing game based on what
Strategy.
available funding is. Yep. This is kind of an important structure to get replaced, so we want to make sure we get that detour route clear before we take those other bridges out.
Other questions, comments? Commissioner Blandberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So part of that big score is if I remember correctly, if we have it in our budget, that helps, or does it have to be in our budget?
Yeah, so this has to be in our 5-year plan. So the 5-year plan that we present and the commission approves in October, everything that we apply for big grants has to be in the 5-year plan.
Thank you.
What's the application deadline?
January 2nd.
Coming up, okay.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to approve a resolution authorizing submission of big preservation and replacement funds and cost participate 20% for 2 bridges. Jacob?
Yes. So here are 2 additional structures that we're looking to apply for with the big grant procedure. The one that scores 63 points is a rehabilitation project, which includes a low slump overlay. And that one is on Holly Boulevard, right on the west side of Brandon. And then the other structure scores 57, 56, and it is pretty much straight west of Garrettson on 253rd Street on a township gravel road. That structure, 5273-090, is currently posted. Posted structures automatically get additional points, so that's why it scores so well compared to the previous structure by staying with an 80-20 grant.
Public comment. Jacob, I just noticed that this one's over Holly Boulevard. Is there any concern with construction, or, I mean, we talk about the Holly Boulevard connection to Sioux Falls, or am I thinking of the wrong road?
No, it's the right road. It's our highest ADT road that the county has jurisdiction over. It's around 10,000 cars a day, so this will have to be phased construction where we do it half the time and maintain traffic.
Will it be built to accommodate future width of the road if that's built that way? How does that work?
Yep, so this structure is currently wide enough to run 4 lanes of traffic on, but Holly Boulevard on either side is only built out from the bridge into Brandon as a 4-lane road. The city of Brandon built that out a couple of years ago as a concrete road with 4 lanes.
Okay.
As Brandon expands and builds to the west, I expect they will also build out that section of road as a 4-lane, but this bridge is already wide enough, and the rehab project will not be widening the structure any further.
Okay, planning ahead, good to hear. Other questions? All right, need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, call the roll, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign utility and right-of-way certificates between Minnehaha County and SDDOT for projects MC 2203, Structure 50273-090 replacement, and MC 2410, Structure 5242060 replacement. Jacob.
This is in the same vein as the last couple items. The DOT, as part of the big grant, requires us to prove that we have worked with the utility companies and worked with the adjacent landowners to make sure we won't have any issues if and when we get awarded a grant, so there aren't any additional hurdles to jump there. So we've worked with the landowners, gotten their permission to work adjacent to these structures, and worked with the utility companies to make sure we can get utilities moved out of the way in time for construction.
Public comment. All right, moving on then to commission action.
Make a motion to approve?
Roll call vote, please.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Benega. Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign amendment number 1 to agreement between Minnehaha County and Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated Construction Administration of Project MC 2209, Structure 5144020, replacement. Jacob.
Structure 5144020 is straight west of the Del Rapids exit on County Highway 104. We replaced this structure this fall. It's currently gravel approaches going up to the concrete bridge. The additional cost for this amendment is for both some design that happened during construction because the bridge beams were built a year prior, and as they cure, they shrink, and they added camber to the bridge. So the road had to be designed somewhat, and then the project wasn't completed by the contractor's deadline. The contractors charged liquidated damages past their completion deadline to cover costs such as this, and the consultant now has additional costs for future inspection, and that's also part of what this amendment is for. This amendment is then covered 80/20 by the state as part of our big grant.
Public comment. Who screwed up?
I don't like to name names, but ultimately it's the contractor's responsibility to make sure that the structure is open by the completion date. This project was bid, year and a half ago. So they had plenty of time to start the project and get it done. They didn't start soon enough. There was some delivery with the beams that they got, and then you never know when you push the envelope too late in the fall, you're gonna run into weather issues. So that was a gamble that they took. So the contractor ended up in liquidated damages. And you'll see a change order for that once we get towards the end of that project in the spring, what those liquidated damages will amount to.
So the county's not paying anything additional?
We haven't calculated out exactly where we're gonna end up with liquidated damages because the project won't finish until spring. The liquidated damages are paused during the winter because construction can't happen. The asphalt plants aren't open, the contractor can't physically complete the project, so we pause the damages until we can resume construction again in the spring.
Okay.
How do we typically handle situations like this, or have handled them in the past? And in my mind, if a contractor agrees to an amount and they run over for whatever reasons, there's of course weather and other inclement conditions, is the county going to be picking up the tab for their mistakes, or do they eat the cost themselves, or how have we typically handled that in the past?
Yeah, no, good question. So for this structure, we couldn't put asphalt in this fall because it got too cold and late. So then the contractor is responsible for any interim work that needs to take place until we can go put the asphalt back in. So those costs are on the contractor to make sure that the structure gets open to traffic. They remove and prep the subgrade so we can pave again in the spring. The costs that you're looking at are for the consultant that we've hired to inspect the project. So these costs are borne by us until such time as we get liquidated damages back from the contractor. Those costs don't come directly to us, they're just a reduction in the cost to the construction contract. And it's all proportional to us because this is a big grant, so
80/20.
I can't remember if it's 80/20 or 70/30 split on this project, but we only pay a portion of these costs at the end of the day because the state's helping pick up this bill.
Okay. I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign agreement number 1 between Minnehaha County and Alteg Engineering Incorporated, design of project MC 2208, structure 5033086, replacement.
Good morning, Commissioner Jacob Mars. This is another amendment for structure. This structure is one that our bridge inspector also identified we need to have in our 5-year plan. He expects it's going to start deteriorating to the point of it needed to be posted. We have started on this design, but we need to change our design to make sure we're compliant with DOT standards. So this amendment is for a big grant submission, which would be for full design a year from now.
Public comment. Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider a motion to declare Sheriff's Office vehicle as surplus for salvage and accept an insurance payment of $30,325. Captain Bosman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. This morning I have in front of you a request to declare one of our Sheriff's Office vehicles as surplus for insurance salvage. We had an unfortunate loss of a vehicle due to a head-on collision mid-September. As a result of that, the insurance company has looked at it and said, yep, that's done. So it's extremely heavy damage to it. As such, they look at the value of the vehicle and come up with a value of $30,325 for the vehicle, which we feel is a very, very fair insurance payout for that. And in fact, also on top of that, they are also covering up to $5,000 for what's called R&I, the removal and installation of equipment, which will be a cost that we're going to have to do. So timing of this is such that we are expecting our last 3 vehicles that we've ordered in our 2025 budget to come in. And so this vehicle that had an untimely departure from our fleet is going to be the number 1 out of the 3 that are going to be replaced this month into next month. So timing was okay with it. We're glad that our deputy was not extremely hurt out of it. So at this point, it's just kind of a bookwork to take it off our books and accept the insurance check if you approve.
Thank you, Captain. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Swallowed wrong.
I'll second
Sorry.
that motion.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Closeout report on the Minnehaha County Radio Infrastructure Upgrade Project. No action on this item. This is just a report.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman again with the Sheriff's Office. Drive the mouse here. So we've had a several-year project to get to this point where we can say that we are fully operational with our new radio towers in the county that will benefit all law enforcement, first responders, fire, EMS. So I kind of wanted to give you a little closeout report on it. It's been a few years since this was first authorized for us to take this initiative and using the funding and the steps and the agreements and the purchases and the whole process. So to wrap this all up, I'm just do a quick recap. We're talking out in the patrol division, we use portable radios and mobile radios. The mobile radio is the one that is in the vehicle. The portable radio is the one that would be on the belt on the person of the first responder. Portable radios don't have as much power as they do the mobile radios. So a lot of times we would see individuals where the firefighter or the deputy would go into a structure to deal with the situation and they would lose signal to talk with other responders and Metro Communications. So we started looking at, well, what is our coverage area looking like in the county? This was what it looked like pre the rollout of the new system. Areas shaded in blue was anticipated portable coverage area. That was our big focus of portable coverage. As you could see, that area in Colton, Lyons, north of Humboldt was pretty sparse. A lot of times our deputies would not be able to get out on their portable radios. They would have to go back to their car to communicate with other responders. So that was our big identification part of where our need was to improve. We're happy to say that with the new rollout of the additional tower sites and equipment, the areas now have filled in. As you can see, this is kind of that northern part of the county. As you can see, we have much, much better coverage out there. We've added some new tower sites. As you can see, Garrettson is a new site, West Baltic is a new site, Colton on their water tower is a new site, and then we also have antennas on the KKLS tower, which is north of Humboldt there on Highway 19. The Hartford tower site is a new site as well too. That was an old site that got blown down with the derecho. So this is how, again, long we've been working to get through this part of where we are. More of a visual representation of what our system looks like. And they call it a simulcast system. And what that means is all the towers in the Minnehaha simulcast, which is in that purple pinkish shaded area, all work in conjunction. So if one site is not picking up a good signal, they all kind of can piggyback together and make a mesh network, one big loop and covering area. Sioux Falls has their own simulcast site, which they have a group of towers in the city limits that all work in conjunction. And then we have one tower site by Wall Lake that is still in a standalone site. Our radios are so much that they can to tell which site they're going to be going on to. So as we drive around, we'll go from Sioux Falls out into the county. It'll automatically say, hey, I like that signal strength out there in the county. I'm going to switch to that system instead. So it's very seamless. It works well. We've done testing pre-rollout and post-rollout, and we've had areas in the county where the radio signal strength has more than doubled, especially in that Colton, Lyons, Baltic area, all the way out to in Sherman. Like portable coverage in Sherman was never a thing, and now it is. So we're very, very happy with that. Firefighters are experiencing new areas of coverage with their radios that they haven't had before. They'd be in their own fire halls and couldn't get out on their portable radios in their own stations. Now they can because of the additional towers that we have put up in those communities. Like I mentioned, this was kind of a long little project. A lot of that kind of dealt with back in December 2022 when we signed on with Motorola to get this thing rolling. That was kind of like, okay, we're going to purchase this stuff. I equated to, I said, I bought the car, but we didn't have the tires and we didn't have the engine. We didn't have air in the tires. So it was kind of a process to get to where we were. So in 23, we worked on securing the land agreements and the locations for those sites. We had to go to bid for the construction awards. 2024, once the weather got nice, we started building our equipment shelters, which are fortified buildings that can house this expensive electrical equipment. They have grounding requirements, so that way they can take lightning strikes and not fry the equipment inside. We started building some new towers that needed to go up and putting the antennas on. And finally, in September of this year, we were happy to flip the switch and nothing went zap. So everything is working now. We're happy with that. Deputies are, like I said, are reporting good success with their radios out there, and that was what we wanted. Funding for this project. Where did all this money come from? We are, close to $4 million into this project. As you can see from this chart here, 3.8 million of that was ARPA money. And so very generous allowance from the commission for us to use that, with only 61,000 coming out of the county money to make this finish work. And a lot of that was just maybe some antennas, some polyphasers. I'm learning all these terms that I never thought I would as a cop in my days as a radio person. But just a little extra thing, battery backups, the things that weren't included in the ARPA project that just to make us get past the finish line came up with that $61,000. This was a widespread project with multiple partners that we had with us. City of Sioux Falls, we had agreements with them where they partnered with us to pay for half of one of the towers, the West Baltic location. They also were the ones that were the former owners of the tower that blew down by Hartford, and so they gave us the insurance proceeds so we could replace that tower. City of Garrettson and Colton have given us the allowance to go on their equipment, on their land for our antennas at those locations. County facilities with Mark Krins and his team have been very, very helpful with kind of some of the fencing, gravel, everything else that goes into making these sites maintainable for future use. Highway Department has supplied some gravel and equipment to help us make sure that these, again, sites are now that we've built them, you got to maintain them. Metro Communications and State Radio, they've helped also with, they know more than I do with radio systems. So when they say phone a friend or radio a friend, that's what I did absolutely with this. And those are two very knowledgeable radio and people at Metro Communications and State Radio. They provide some equipment. Maybe I needed a computer rack to finish it off. And they're like, yeah, I got one for you here. Let me help you out with that. So good to have those connections. Two-Way Solutions and Anco, those were our contractors, subcontractors, local vendors here that helped with antennas, making the connections inside the structures. So we did have some local vendors that were working on this project as well too here, not just some company that comes from out of state. And to wrap up here, this is a opportunity. I want to say a big thank you to all the commissioners, again, for going back into 2022, saying, yep, we support this project, we support first responders, and authorizing ARPA money to be utilized towards this. I know it's a true Christmas present for Susan Beeman to have this ARPA project closed out. I'm sorry, I was the last one holding it up, but we are there. The book is hopefully closed and locked and collecting dust on the shelf is our goal with that. But honestly, this was a big project, and we're very, very pleased with the results. And I just wanted to give it an opportunity to say thank you, and we've made it to this point and satisfied. Thank you.
Captain, very good report. It's nice to put a bow on something, a project this big. Any public comment on this agenda item? Again, Captain, thank you. Great use of ARPA money. The first responders are obviously much better served with it, but so are all the people of Minnehaha County. And, you talk about the Hartford Tower, Hartford or Wall Lake Tower blowing down.
The Hartford, yeah.
I mean, we had them in little metal garden sheds before that weren't fit to protect the equipment that's in there. So I think we did a good job with everything. Thank you for that work.
You're welcome. Yeah, it is very future-proof, and this will last us for the next 20 years.
Yep. Any additional comments?
I was going to say, this is all put into motion before I was sworn in earlier this year, but it's good that it's finally come to completion after these number of years. I was curious, do all the other services, such as EMS and rural firefighters, are they outfitted with the proper equipment and radios to access and use this boosted signal across the county? Or are they still working towards, getting fully equipped?
So the radios that the fire and EMS in our county have are automatically ready and capable and set up with this new system. That was the beautiful thing about it, is when we turned our system on, those radios automatically recognized, hey, that's a state radio system. I'm going to use that. That's a strong signal. Now, as far as what equipment and radios they each have, I know that the fire and EMS all have, vehicles with radios in them. They have portable radios that are issued out to them. In fact, I think we did use some ARPA money to get our fire departments additional portable radios. Again, recognizing that when we have these towers built up and ready to go, if there's nobody on the other end with radios to use the tower sites, then that's not going to be the goal that we wanted. So we wanted to make sure we got the radios in the hands of the first responders and made sure that when you pushed, you can say, can you hear me now? And that's what we've supported them with.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did hear that officers and first responders were having to use their personal cell phones to communicate with one another, and now that's obviously changed.
Yeah, there's quite a few times where our dispatchers were trying to check on the status of our deputies that are on a call, couldn't get through, and so we're reverting to calling on a cell phone and saying, hey, are you okay? Is everything good in there? That has been, I wouldn't say completely eliminated, but is greatly reduced now with our signal strength we have.
Really, thank you.
Thank you, Captain. All right, moving on. Public hearing to consider supplement budget requests to the 2025 annual budget. Susan Beeman, Finance and Budget Officer.
Good morning. Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office. As you mentioned, we are here today for a public hearing to consider budget supplements, and we request an approval of a resolution to authorize the supplements. I'll go through just very high level on these, and if you want more dialogue on them, we do have some department representatives here today if you have deeper questions. So I'm going to keep it fairly high level and then let you direct from there where we're going to go with questions. So the request today is supplements for $462,600 for the general fund. The departments that make that up are courts for $100,000, public defender for $190,000, public advocate for $18,000, juvenile detention center for $138,000, and the airport security for $16,600. Just one quick note on the airport, since that is a reimbursement contract, the increase to the budget is also then reimbursed by the airport as well. So just know there's revenue that offsets that expense. And then additionally, for the domestic abuse fund, a supplemental request of $7,378. So I'll just pause there to see if you have any questions or would like to dive in further on any of these.
Well, this is a public hearing, so we do take anybody that is in favor of this budget amendment. We would take comment from persons that would like to speak in favor of this budget request. Anybody opposed? All right, don't need a rebuttal. I'll now turn it over to the commission for questions and/or action. And I can kick it off if nobody else wants to. Commissioner Heise and I have been meeting with our public defense office, Tracy Smith, and $190,000, half of that money is for psychological evaluations. I think are they $1,500 or $2,500 a piece? I can't remember the exact number, but it's for competency, basically, to stand trial.
They can vary. I mean, 2,500 is probably a good number for an average.
Yep, and they're required constitutionally. You have to be able to contribute to your own defense. So, I mean, that's just it's a large portion of what we do, and the costs that we have to eat, and the taxpayers' money that gets spent on these items. Any additional comments?
Mr. Chair, morning, Susan. How often do we do these budget supplements? Typically, is it something that comes around year to year, or is it off and on?
Yeah, good question. So we always do one usually this time of year. So when we look at these departments that are being requesting a supplement, none of them are over budget at this time, except for the domestic abuse fund. The general fund departments, we just anticipate through December and then into the catch up of expenses that we get in January for December. By the time all of that is settled, this is what we're anticipating that we will need to balance our budget for those departments. So we could do this more frequently. So if we had special needs for a department that said, there was something very unique that they were going to be over budget by June, we would be coming forward and looking at doing a public hearing before that. Domestic abuse fund, it's kind of a unique situation where we get the money in from the domestic abuse fund quarterly or throughout the year and throughout the month, and then we distribute that to our domestic abuse fund partners the month following the quarter end. So the supplement is really just a way to offset the additional revenue that we got in that we had to pay out to our domestic abuse partners. So again, that fund is really a wash. And this one just happened this fall as well. So none of these were over budget for a long period in time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of unpredictable costs that we're subject to and can't exactly plan for the year prior. For example, the number of murder cases, juvenile cases, cases in general that consume more resources and kind of fall on the county's lap. Can't exactly plan for those. But what are some of the biggest drivers or items that have necessitated this?
When you look at everything except for the domestic abuse fund, the driver, again, is public safety and justice. Just increased court costs, increased defense costs, just more individuals needing services. So where we talk a lot about, from a budgetary perspective, public safety and justice really drives our general fund budget. That's also driving these supplement requests as well. When you think about these budgets were really set a year and a half ago. They were brought forward initially in June of 24, provisional budget set in 25 or in July of 24. So there's a lot of things that move around in that year and a half. So the departments all have done a very good job of managing those parts of their budget that they really can control. What you're not seeing are supply costs going over budget. You're not seeing travel costs going over budget. These are those unpredictable things that are really driven by service needs within the county.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bentinga.
Yeah, I would add, from the jail standpoint, I've met with the warden three times, I think. And all of these increased costs are literally because of jail participation and attendance, and frankly, the number of meals that need to be served. And unfortunately, some specialty needs and medical costs have also made a significant difference in the operation. All things that we made good budget numbers, but unfortunately, we're busier than we thought we were going to be.
One further question. If we decide to supplement the budget this year, where is that money exactly coming from? Is it our reserves or?
In theory, it's our reserves, so but I'll add a asterisk behind that. So when we do our budget, we plan for 3% underspend on our general fund budget. So we manage our budget and our cash flow anticipating that we're going to be under budget by expenses by 3% or more. Currently through November, we're at about 86% of our budget on expenses. So by the end of the year, I'm projecting that we'll be 4 to 5% underspending our budget. So even with these supplements, we'll still be within that target of a 3% underspend. So we'll increase the budget for these, but because there's underspend in other departments, in total, we're meeting our target.
Yeah. In essence, it's a wash at the end of the day.
Correct.
We're not taxing taxpayers anymore because of this.
No, we are not.
Look for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion a second. Call the roll, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg. Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Heisey.
Motion carries. All right, moving on. Consider a motion to authorize 2025 budget supplement requests using grants, donations, and reimbursements. Susan.
Yeah, Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office again. Today, we request your approval to add supplements to our budget for grants, donations, and reimbursements totaling $2,524,593.98. These are ones that do not require a public hearing, but we still need commission approval to supplement the budget. I'll just indicate in total the ones by the funds in question. Just over $1 million for our general fund, our pass-through grant fund of about $135,000, our J grant fund of just under $55,000. 24 sobriety fund of $10,000, emergency management fund of $170,000, and our American Rescue Plan funds of just under $1.1 million. On the ARPA fund, we did have the expenses budgeted, but I failed to include the revenue the last time. So this just essentially balances out the budget for the revenue and the expenses. So we again can dive into details on these if you would like. There are details in your memo. And we do have some of the departments here as well for additional questions if you have any.
Okay. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion, second. Additional comments?
I have one question. Susan, all these grants, this is money that the county is receiving, correct? We're not spending any money.
So we're receiving, but then we're also spending. So, for example, earlier this year, we received a new funding from the MacArthur grant, MacArthur SJC, $250,000 grant award. Those expenses are in the budget, but we've never increased the budget for those expenses. So we've traditionally done these at the end of the year. And so we've been discussing, since these grants are coming throughout the year, that that's something we might change in future years to just kind of get the expenses budgets there more frequently. But we do get revenue in, but we're also increasing the expenses based upon that in some cases.
So this money's already been allocated, we're just accepting it and then dispersing it?
Generally, for grants, you would have accepted it as part of the transaction. So when the MacArthur SJC grant was done, you accepted that grant award. This essentially just puts that budget there, similar to Captain Bossman's insurance proceeds. This is similar to that. It's a transaction that individually might come to you, but then the budget's not been added to it to account for it.
All right, thank you.
I got a motion and a second. Any additional comments?
I'd just like to make a comment. The budget process every year is significant investment of time and expense, so to speak. All of the department heads do a wonderful job of budgeting. When we talk about these numbers, they are significant in some cases, but overall, it's less than 0.3% of our general fund budget. So it frankly is very well done, and I appreciate Susan and your anticipation of what some of these issues are, and frankly, how close our budget is to the actual numbers that we proposed.
I agree. We just got done and we already started talking about next year, so, yeah. Mhm. So, all right, keep your eye on the ball. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a request for use of personnel budget savings for operational expenses from the 2025 budget.
Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office again. So we have 3 departments that are requesting use of unused personal services, which are salaries and benefit budget, to be used for operational expenditures. These departments are not over budget in total, but per county policy, in order to use salary savings for other expenses, they do have to bring those forward for you for approval to do that. So the 3 that we are asking for your approval today is the Treasurer's Office is asking for use of $7,500 in personnel savings to cover budget shortfalls for postage and paper. The jail is requesting use of $125,000 in savings to cover budget shortfalls in the Board of Prisoner Meals. And that increase is just due to cost increases, number of beds being used, as well as specialty meals. And then additionally, the Sheriff's Office is requesting for the Southeast Tech Department $3,400 in personal savings to cover costs for their new patrol rifles.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey. Aye. Blyenberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, what we've all been waiting for, the last agenda item. That being, consider a motion to approve a resolution establishing 2026 elected department head annual salaries. Carrie Deaver.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. As you mentioned, we're before you today asking for approval on a resolution to establish 2026 elected department head annual salaries. You'll recall that in November, staff had drafted for you for initial discussion purposes only a resolution just to begin discussions. As a recap, that resolution includes 2 main areas. One is an area setting salary above the statute or minimums for these elected roles. And that section is there intended to give people an idea at what the minimum salary would be if they chose to run for office. The second main section on that resolution is this portion actually setting salaries for the incumbents of those roles for the upcoming year. So for that first resolution presented in November 18th, again, that was drafted by staff, and just to generate discussion so that you could consider a final motion. Today's agenda materials includes that draft resolution with the salaries that were presented in November, as well as an alternative proposal that's being made by Commissioner Bleinberg. If there are any questions I can answer for you at this time, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay. So we'll take public comment, or we're going to have the alternative. So we have two resolutions. The initial one that we discussed on November 15th, and then we have the one that Commissioner Bleinberg has been working on and would like to present to the rest of the commission. And then we'll take public comment on these two items.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you to everybody who's had conversations with me leading up to this to help us get this alternative resolution put together. I just wanted to briefly go over some of the rationale that I had leading back first to the need for the compensation study in the first place. Just remembering the higher turnover that kind of persisted after COVID that kind of prompted us to look into the comp study to reassess the pay matrix. Personnel costs make up the majority of our budget, and I know we all value our staff. They are arguably our most valued asset. So as the compensation study recommended that we move the department head and elected official salaries up, as Carrie mentioned, we have two different things to consider. One would be the salary ranges for the elected positions, and then the second one being the actual pay for the elected officials in 2026. Regarding the salary ranges, the elected official pay range is the one area that I think we could make a strong case to adopt a slight variation from the study. The ranges are very significant. We all know this, but just to go over it, for candidates who are considering running for public office and for us as commissioners when we're looking at filling a position due to a vacancy. And I think it's important that we continue to treat the offices of auditor, register of deeds, and treasurer equally in terms of minimum pay. My rationale for that is that they are similar in size and responsibilities, and also that South Dakota codified law maintains uniformity by setting an equal minimum salary for all three of those. I think, to my understanding, the compensation study is the first time that it's been suggested that we make a change from that approach. And I don't feel that right now is the time for us to change. I know we've discussed the future of those offices, things have been suggested, and I think that would be a more appropriate time to consider deviating from this pay structure. So the minimums that I'm suggesting on the resolution keep us in line with similarly sized counties, and I think most importantly, they balance the nature of an elected role. We want that range to be high enough to attract qualified individuals to run for office or to apply, but we also would like the minimum salary to come in not as high as appointed department heads, just because of the nature of running for an election. So I would propose that I would make a motion to put the alternative resolution on the table for public comment and for commission discussion.
I'll second that motion and just comment. Well, first of all, thank you for your explanation, Commissioner Bleinberg. I think you made a lot of good points there, and I hope not to repeat anything you said, but there has been quite a lot of discussion amongst us as commissioners, along with the elected officials about their salaries. As I see it, I like the salaries to be as fair and equitable as possible, not only for the present moment, but also to set us up to avoid any sense of unfairness down the road, while bringing these salaries more in line with what other department heads are currently receiving and will down the road. Bringing the minimums up to $115,000 and accounting for the year served for the auditor, treasurer, and register of deeds specifically will, I think, accomplish this. And like you said, Commissioner, historically, Minnehaha County has had these salary minimums the same. This holds true with numerous counties across the state. The findings from the McGrath compensation study have been very helpful and informative. We've implemented it in large part. But on this matter, when it comes to elected department head salaries, I believe it wise to stray a little bit from it and go this route instead. So appreciate you bringing this motion forward.
All right, thank you, commissioners. So maybe a little bit out of routine here, but we have a motion and a second on a resolution alternative to what was presented several weeks ago. At this point, we will take public comment if there's anybody interested in addressing the commissioners on this new proposed minimums for the elected officials and also for to establish their new pay beginning in January. Any public comment? Okay, so commission, we have before us a resolution that is a motion and a second. We can have further discussion. We can take amendments to the resolution. Ball's in our court. Any additional comments?
Mr. Chair, I'll just state that I'll be a no vote on this. I'll just note that this is the one deviation we've made from the consultant's report, which kind of implies that it should be intentional, logical, thought through, but I'll just limit my critique of the proposal by saying it goes too far in part and falls short in part if the strategic vision is to attract and retain the best talent for the county and signal the importance of these positions. This has a feel of reverse engineering to lowest common denominators rather than a strategic implementation of a comp study with an eye toward placing incumbents at a merit-based point on the range and attracting future candidates or applicants who would merit being placed above the minimum on such a range. So I'll be a no vote.
Additional comments? I personally, while felt that the McGrath study was done very well, when it came down to the elected officials, I really had a hard time understanding why the register of deeds was set so low, and I didn't quite follow the logic on that, and that's why I'm more supportive of this, just in that one respect. The register of deeds and the auditor both supervise the same number of people, and our other non-elected department heads have a salary considerably higher for starting above the 100. So that's where most of my heartburn came with the McGrath study. And it is a study, and it's for our consideration. I don't think we have to accept it in its entirety as being the gospel. But I am in favor of these changes because it does set reasonable minimums that are considerably higher than current minimums. And it also, I think, compensates the individuals in those positions appropriately, albeit still less than other hired department heads. So I am supportive of it. Other comments?
I have a question for Carrie, if you can get back up here. I think in one of our prior discussions, it was either yourself or someone else that noted that when the McGrath study was looking at elected department heads, they didn't exactly look at them in the same way as the non-elected department heads. There were different questions asked, or there was different things that were factored into the equation. Is that true?
That is correct. Your full-time non-elected positions were evaluated based on a point factor system. In other words, employees were asked to provide information. The consultants went through that, determined what they did for job duties, what minimum qualifications are for the position, who did they supervise, what's their budget, all those types of factors that make up a job. And that determined, along with market-based issues, the pay grades for positions. For elected department heads, they took into consideration two separate things. One is market, and the other is essentially the pay grade for the deputy in the deputy department. So not at all the same approach. And I think I've told you now a few years in a row that market for these positions can be challenging. State's attorney, sheriffs, we have a few more market points. And when we did our initial study after I became the director some 19 years ago, the auditor, treasurer, register of deeds had several market points. Well, through times and changes in other county structures, those market points are really coming down to just two. So there's a lot of variation. If you have a newly elected individual, maybe the average market was here, the newly elected person's appointed at a lower rate, it can drastically reduce it. So that's why you have to take market with somewhat of a grain of salt.
Thank you.
You bet.
Additional comments?
I would just make a brief comment, and you've already explained what I frankly was considering and think is a good solution, is that we do need to make the changes to those three elected official minimums, because unfortunately I agree with you, and Carrie is pretty much guaranteed, so to speak, that what their process was different than what they had done for others, and I don't think that's quite fair, to be honest.
Okay. All right. If no additional comments, I'll ask for a roll call.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
No.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. All right. Thank you, everybody. We are now at the opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to address the commission on any non-agenda item, you have 5 minutes. We allow for 30 total. All right. Commission liaison reports. Who's first? Commissioner Benega?
I'll just briefly do that also. The Juvenile Justice Center Building Committee that meets every other week met last week, and process is going great, again, with all the input we've had, and frankly, there's been very little hiccups with any of that. I also met with the facilities manager, Mike Krenz, for a few hours, and we talked about some of the items that he's proposed, and we might make some recommendations on a couple of larger items that can be delayed until we get to the master planning process finalized. And then last but not least, I've been involved in the master planning process for months, I guess it's been. But anyway, that's going well, and I appreciate the input that we heard this morning from the building committee. Most of those I agree with the conversation, and frankly, it's a good starting point for more detail.
Interesting meeting, to say the least. All right. Other reports? Commissioner Blindberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just also wanted to mention Commissioner Benninga and I were able to meet with Jamie Gravitt from the JDC in the new building. And for me, that was our first monthly meeting in the new space since everyone's moved over, and things seem to be going well. The space seems to be already serving the purpose that it was intended, with fewer disruptions for the youth and for the opportunities for them to spend more time in the kind of activities we would want them to be involved in during the day. I also just wanted to mention at the Accessible Housing Advisory Board monthly meeting, we had a discussion about changes, and I'm just going to give you the warning, and then if you have more serious questions, I can direct you to somebody who knows more than me. But there's going to be, where we're watching changes to the continuum of care vouchers and NOFO vouchers. I couldn't even tell you what that stands for. There's so many acronyms in that group, but that could end up having a very large impact on our community partners when it comes to shelter housing, shelter care, and then subsequently human services, which I just would like to take a moment to piggyback and say we did not have a supplement to the budget for human services this year, which there's been times throughout the year where things have seemed a little bit precarious as far as funding. So I feel like that's an accomplishment. And then Tomorrow, the Juvenile Justice Collaborative will be meeting here at noon, and that's just an excellent opportunity for us to continue discussing how we care for juveniles in this area. That's all for me.
I personally last week was in Pierre for State Association of County Commissioners board meeting. A lot of discussion on the upcoming legislative session, legislative priorities. We talked about TIFs and the philosophy behind them. Talked primarily about property taxes. What are we thinking we could support as a state board? So much of it comes back to we're directed by state statute to pay for services, whether it be public defense or a jail, and the state says, well, it's all nice, but we're not going to reimburse you the actual cost. I'm just kind of getting on my own little bully pulpit here because it kind of gets old when we're told we have to do stuff and then we're kind of implied that we're not doing it very well. And tomorrow I will be chairing the board meeting of the Link. We have a semi or bi-monthly meeting, and we have a new director for the Link. Kind of a new position, but a new director that's kind of the implementer of trying to take the Link to the next step in the next process. And then I'll also attend the chamber board meeting tomorrow at noon. So full day of meetings today and tomorrow. And then this afternoon I am start for the entire afternoon into the evening working with the planning for the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance on their comprehensive plan for the next 3 years on what the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance looks like and what we're going to be doing there. And then I understand have another full-time job that I got to get to once in a while also. So any non-action commission discussion? All right, I think we're going to do an executive session next door. All right, so I'd look for a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of South Dakota codified law. Thank you. 125(2), 134, and 6.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're going to move over to executive session. Thank you, everybody.